What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there's a lot that took place from after our last Minnesota Timberwolves game, Bulls, Timberwolves, whatever, and we'll have to get to that later, ladies and gentlemen. But today we are going to be discussing the Chicago Bulls and Minnesota Timberwolves game reaction. I know a lot of people are pissed at the moment, and look, I'm completely understanding of that. And to be honest, it's not like I'm too happy myself, but you know, let's just talk about things in order. Maybe I'll get to it towards the end of the video, actually. I mean, maybe we don't make a separate video. Maybe I will anyway. I don't really know. But I want to talk about the Bulls and the Timberwolves because that is the most important thing in the situation. It's a preseason game, our final preseason game. And to be honest, we did experiment. And I don't think we did that badly. And ultimately, we walked away with our victory going positive in preseason. But before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know what you guys think about the Chicago Bulls, your player of the game, and just the performance overall against the Timberwolves, as we did win this one, 126 to 120. Now, for the most part, it was very back and forth, tooth and nail sort of stuff, and it was a very enjoyable game. But what was the experiment that we actually went with today? Well, starters, we know what Minnesota bring to the table, and they have very physical front court players. Rudy Gobert is obviously a phenomenal center. Julius Randle is a very good big in his own right, very good forward, mobile forward, but also very physical. And the Bulls decided to play two big men in the starting lineup today, if I'm not mistaken. Or if it wasn't in the starting lineup, they definitely played together a lot. And it was Jalen Smith and Nikola Vucevic. They both did start, just to confirm. So we kind of tried to match them a little bit. And, you know, sometimes I think people have mixed bags on whether or not you should be matching the opponent. For starters, some people will say if you're good enough, it doesn't necessarily matter what lineup. You stick with what's best for you and you go for the win each and every single time. Some people will say, well, look, the playoffs is definitely a game of strategy. And if you're going to get to the playoffs, you need to focus on strategy, picking different lineups, working with different lineups, experimenting with different lineups, and that could help you in the regular season. So I'm on the latter side. Yeah, look, if we were the first seed every single game, we should probably be doing the same thing, right? We should be doing what works until someone knows how to beat it and tries to beat it. But unfortunately, we're not the first seed. We're nowhere near the first seed. So I'm all on board 100% to experiment and to work with things to see what works and see what doesn't. And today was a perfect factor in that. We played two big men in the lineup, and it actually worked in our favor. And that could give us lessons when we face teams like Milwaukee, who we lost to in this preseason, or we face teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves again, even teams like Cleveland if we need to. If we need to, we can match up with them. Because it worked well. Jalen Smith played pretty decently today. He had 15 points, 5 rebounds, was in that power forward spot more times than not, was mobile enough to get to the perimeter, had some really good defensive displays as well. He had a big block on Rudy Gobert in the first quarter, and he worked very well. He worked hard, and things like that worked. Even Zach Collins and Vucevic had a bit of a big men sort of lineup as well for a little bit. It's good to experiment with these things because you never know when you're going to need it. You know, we could potentially at some point need a multi-guard system instead of the forwards that we have. We could be in a position where we need to play a forward-heavy team, and we could be in a position like we are today where we need to play two big men in the lineup. And that's exactly what you're experimenting for in preseason. If that's not what preseason is about, then I don't know what preseason is about, ladies and gentlemen. It's about experimenting with the lineup, working with different lineups. I'm actually very happy we had the Timberwolves in this preseason because if it wasn't for that game, if it wasn't for the Timberwolves, I don't think we would have ever seen this experiment. So I'm happy with it, ladies and gentlemen. I really, really am. And Vucevic finally came out of the woodworks a little bit, had an okay game, 13 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. It wasn't amazing, but my goodness, it was a lot better than the previous games he's had. In my opinion, he's had the worst preseason of the entire Bulls organization, like everybody. And that's including Kobe White, who didn't even play a preseason game. I think he was worse than that for some reason. But he's been really, really bad. At least today he scored double figures and he showed remotely what he could do on the offensive end. We need to see more of it, 100%. And again, I'm hoping a pro's pro can build himself out of it because that is what we're going to need. But ultimately, there was highlights in here as well. Matas Buzelis was an absolute highlight machine in this game. 19 points, and the majority of them were highlight-worthy displays. Alley-oop dunks. I think was it a kind of a windmill dunk that he did in transition? He had a couple of three-point attempts as well. He was phenomenal on the scoring end. And look, the only thing I can say with Buzelis is if he is going to play in that power forward position, which he didn't really today, so it's not a big deal for me. But more rebounding would be nice in that forward area, you know? You see guys like Giddey crashing rebounds. He had 7 rebounds today, actually. You know, he's a guard. I know he plays as a forward kind of on the defensive end sometimes, but he is a guard, and he's grabbing 7 rebounds. I expect Matas Buzelis to kind of crash a little bit more, but ultimately, today, I guess, is not the biggest situation, right? It's not the end of the world. We also saw a very nice game from Julian Phillips. 17 points off the bench today, 6 rebounds in his own right. He had a couple of transition plays, which were absolutely lovely. He also had a couple of plays where he was making threes. He got and ones. He was kind of everywhere today. And making a claim. You know, the beautiful thing about the forward positions that we have now, everybody's made their claim to play in this team. Patrick Williams, for 4 out of the 5 games, I think he did well. And he's made a claim to be a part of this team. Dalen Terry's made a claim to be a part of this team with his recent performances. Noah Senge is a rookie that you'd hope could make the team at some point. Probably not compared to everybody else's performances, but you'd like to think he'd eventually get there. You know, there's just so many players. And then you see Julian Phillips, who you thought, all right, we know what the lineup is going to be, and Julian Phillips might not be a part of that. He goes and drops 17 points, was very good from the three-point line, did a lot of dirty work plays, played some good defense, and all of a sudden you're thinking he should be in fighting position for that lineup. I feel like the coach has a tough decision to make because we know the rotations he likes to play. We know that you're not going to play 10 men, right? You're not going to play 10 men. You're either going to get a 9 or an 8-man rotation, right? And that 9th man is a hard place to pick. So I think depending on the game, Billy Donovan said this as well, depending on the game and depending on what's needed, different players are going to run in there. And I hope he makes the right choices more times than not. So, yeah, what an interesting game that took place here, ladies and gentlemen. I can honestly sit here and say preseason, in my opinion, was a success. But now it matters game 1. And game 1 is a very difficult one. It's against Detroit. Detroit were 44 wins on the season, so they were plus 500. The Bulls were not. So I'm hoping for a good challenge here, a good fight. And I'm hoping that this preseason can allow us to take it to these good teams and maybe take some wins from them as well. Let's hope we can do that, ladies and gentlemen, but a very good performance nonetheless. In terms of who my player of the game was today, there's many ways this can go, but statistically wise, I don't think I can ignore what Josh Giddey did today. He had 14 points, 9 assists, and 7 rebounds, and he was just really incredible in terms of the offensive end today as well. Defensively, he had a couple of nice and ones. I don't know how he's mastered that little floater that he does when he gets to the rim. It just seems like he's chucking up Hail Marys there, but it just seems to go in all the time. And he had a couple of and ones from that. So, look, he did well today. Again, it wasn't perfect, but it was good. And I think statistically, he is the clear player of the game. But there are many people you could give it to. Buzelis was the highlight reel. So, you know, you could give it to him if you really want. I want to also shout out Dalen Terry. He had a decent game. Trey Jones had a good game. Loads of players today had decent games, and that led to the victory. But yeah, I guess now we could kind of talk about things that have taken place. Unfortunately, Yuki Kamawara got waived. I don't understand the Bulls. I don't understand it because not only did they sign him to a 2-way contract, they did it after the Summer League. Like, if you were going to waive him, you should have just given him a 10-day. You know what I mean? A training camp deal. Why sign him on a 2-way and then waive him? I don't understand that to save my life. But, yeah, like, you got the Yuki fans that are just absolutely pissed. You know how many Yuki fans were literally just Bulls fans because of Yuki, and now they're gonna hate our franchise now. But look, again, I'm very disappointed in the Bulls for this decision. I don't understand it. Apparently, we signed Mac McClung as well. We're in love with Mac McClung. We always sign Mac McClung, apparently, and then we waived him a couple of hours later. I'm assuming that was just to send him into our G League team. That's my only guess there. But a very disappointing outcome, in my opinion, because he didn't even have a bad preseason. In the minutes that he played, he wasn't terrible. I don't understand that. And he provides something different to every other player that we have. Yeah, he's a little bit short. I get it. Defensively, he may not be perfect. I get it. But I don't think we have... I mean, maybe Josh Giddey's the exception, but Yuki is an elite playmaker. And he's one of those players that you could tell will give everything on the court every night. I don't see a way that that is not needed in this team. Sure, he was never going to be a starter. I think if you're a Yuki fan and you just assumed he was going to walk into the Bulls starting lineup, you needed a reality check. That was never going to happen. A two-way contract spot was perfect for him. It gave him chances to battle out in the G League, show exactly what he's all about every night, and then the limited game time in the NBA, he can show what he's all about. He's an injury replacement as well. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was in love with what he did in the summer league, and maybe that's a bit of bias in there because I saw what I saw, I liked what I saw, and I wanted to see more. I just thought it was too soon to do it. If you're going to do something like that, you should have never given him the two-way contract spot to begin with. I don't know what the Bulls are doing there. It makes no sense to me. I'm baffled. I'm stunned. And whatever happens next for Yuki, I hope it's a way back into the NBA. I think he is talented enough to play in the NBA. If I had to take a guess of which team could use a Yuki, my only guess now would probably be New York, considering Malcolm Brogdon retired, which was stunning in of its own right. I think they need some guard help over there after, obviously, Jalen Brunson. Maybe the Houston Rockets. He's not going to start there, but he could be a bench option for them, considering Fred VanVleet, unfortunately, tore his ACL, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a G League position wherever it is, but hopefully it could be for a team that might have some space down the line that he could kind of fit into. I don't know what to say. I'm a bit stunned. So, yeah, that's preseason for us. The ups and the downs of it all. The interesting and baffling decisions that took place. What do you think of preseason? Do you think it was good overall? Do you think it was bad? Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care. And peace.